imagine you're just, turning the page of a really grounded historical text, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you are reading a sci-fi epic.
Right, like totally changing genres.
Exactly, like spiritual beings descending from the sky to interbreed with humanity. And that text isn't, it's not a modern fantasy novel. It is literally the book of Genesis.
Yeah, it's wild.
You're just reading along, expecting dusty genealogies and like ancient trade routes, and then without any warning, the narrative drops you right into this interdimensional genetic crisis.
It is, well, it's a complete textual anomaly. I mean, it's a place in ancient literature where the boundaries between the terrestrial world and the cosmic realm, they don't just blur, they completely shatter.
Yeah.
And what's really crazy is that it happens in the span of just 4 sentences.
4 sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are opening up an ancient lockbox, which is Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. And our mission today is to decode the identity of a group of beings known as the Nephilim.
The Nephilim.
Which, it's a mystery that has sparked centuries of intense debate,
Mm-hmm.
giving us everything from very grounded sociological theories all the way to wild supernatural epics.
Oh, yeah, involving demons, giants, ancient magic, all of it.
Right. And our guide through this whole labyrinth today is a really comprehensive paper from the fall of 2000. It's by Carrie Oberbrunner, and it's titled The Nephilim, Their Origin, Their Existence, Their Identity.
And it really is an incredible piece of scholarship because, well, it pulls together thousands of years of human thought on just these 4 obscure verses.
Yeah, and before we really jump in, we should probably put our own theological cards on the table, right? Face down.
Definitely. That's a good ground rule to establish right up front.
Because this paper touches on everything from conservative theology to liberal theology, ancient mysticism, the whole spectrum. So we just want to make it clear to you listening right now that we aren't here to declare what is definitively true, or, to endorse any specific religious viewpoint. We're really just here to play detective. We are going to look at the evidence Oberbrunner presents on all sides of the debate, impartially.
Because it's fascinating to explore how incredibly intelligent scholars can read the exact same text and walk away with completely different understandings of the universe.
Totally. But, okay, why spend so much time on 4 verses?
Well, the stakes here are actually much higher than just deciphering an ancient vocabulary word. As the paper points out, how you interpret this tiny passage actually dictates how you view the entire Old Testament.
Wow.
Yeah, it influences how you read ancient mythology, and it completely shapes your understanding of the unseen spiritual realm. It's, it really is the domino that knocks over everything else.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to actually read the text that causes all this trouble. So in Genesis 6, the author is describing the era right before the Great Flood, right? Humanity is multiplying, and then we get this bomb in the text.
The absolute...
Right. It essentially says that, quote, "The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves." And then God gets angry, limits the human lifespan to 120 years, and then we get verse 4.
Here it comes.
"The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown."
Mighty men of renown. I mean, that is just an incredibly loaded phrase.
It really is.
So to figure out who these Nephilim actually were, we have to start with the etymology, because the word itself is, it's a puzzle. The root of Nephilim is the Hebrew word nephal.
Nephal.
Right, which actually means to fall or to attack. It does not inherently mean giant.
Wait, really? Which completely shifts the perspective, because I feel like we've all been culturally conditioned to think Nephilim equals like 50-foot giants walking around crushing buildings.
Exactly, like Godzilla or something.
Yeah. But if the root word means to fall or attack, it's almost like translating ancient slang. Think about the word monster today.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Like if I call someone a monster, I might mean a literal scaly beast hiding under the bed, right? But I might also just be describing a really incredible, super aggressive athlete who just dominates on the football field.
Yeah, a total monster on the court.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the word likely describes a class or a character of beings rather than, specific biological species. They could simply be attackers, bullies, or tyrants.
Just the warlords of the ancient world?
Precisely. But the confusion over their physical size, that really takes off when you look at the only other time the Nephilim are mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, which is in Numbers chapter 13.
Oh, the grasshopper complex.
Yes.
This is when the Israelite spies scout out the land of Canaan before they try to conquer it, right?
Yeah.
And they come back completely terrified. And they report seeing the Nephilim there, specifically this group called the Sons of Anak.
Right, the Enoch.
Yeah, and they tell their leaders, we became like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight.
So the text there specifically singles out a portion of the Nephilim as being of great physical stature in that particular moment. But it doesn't mean all of them throughout all of history were physically gigantic.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
The real shift, though, in how we understand the word happened a couple of centuries before Christ. That's when the Hebrew scriptures were translated into ancient Greek.
The Septuagint.
Exactly, Septuagint.
Yeah.
So the scholars working on it, they had to find a Greek equivalent for Nephilim, and they ended up choosing the word gigantes.
Which is obviously where we get the English word giants.
You got it. But it's fascinating because gigantes in ancient Greek didn't just mean tall people.
Right.
In Greek mythology, the gigantes were the literal earthborn offspring of the sky god Uranus and the earth goddess Gaia. They were these monstrous beings who actually warred against the Olympian gods.
Oh, wow. So when those ancient translators chose that specific Greek word, they permanently fused the biblical Nephilim with the imagery of Greek mythology, like right there in the popular imagination.
They absolutely did.
Hmm.
And scholars mentioned in the paper argue that translating it purely as giants loses the linguistic truths of the root Nephal.
The attackers.
Right, so we have this mysterious word for parents or attackers, but we still have to figure out where they came from. Who exactly are the sons of God and the daughters of men?
Okay, so if we follow the source material, this brings us to a massive fork in the road. And the first build we can take is the natural view.
The grounded approach.
Yeah, this is the terrestrial approach. It keeps everything strictly human. And it's historically been the position favored by like conservative theologians and a lot of the early church fathers.
Right, so the natural view basically argues that the sons of God were simply the righteous human descendants of Seth, Adam and Eve's third son. And the daughters of men were the ungodly, rebellious descendants of Cain, the first murderer. So the theory is that God had spiritually separated the godly family line from the ungodly family line.
But then eventually, Seth's descendants compromised.
Exactly. They started intermarrying with Cain's descendants.
So under this view, it's essentially just a story about good people marrying bad people.
Pretty much.
And this mixing of the righteous with the wicked angered God so much that it triggered the flood judgment. I mean, I see the merits of this. It fits perfectly with the broader biblical theme where God is constantly warning his people not to marry into heathen nations, to preserve their spiritual purity.
It does. It's a very clean theological narrative. And more importantly, honestly, it explains the judgment perfectly.
What do you mean?
Well, in Genesis 6, God sends a flood to wipe out humanity, right? God is just. He punishes the ones who actually committed the crime. If humans are drowning in the flood, humans must be the culprits.
Ah, I see.
The natural view completely avoids the incredibly messy biological implications of spiritual beings having physical relations with humans. Plus, there is no mention of angels being judged in the Genesis flood narrative itself.
Right. But think about the logic there for a second. The source actually points out a massive biological hole in this grounded theory.
Oh, definitely.
Like, if a deeply spiritual person and a totally unspiritual person get married, how does that magically create mighty men of renown or literal giants?
Doesn't make any sense.
Right. The paper mentions that proponents of the natural view sometimes argue that because Cain's line was so completely devoid of the spirit, their physical development just exploded into gigantic proportions.
This is an enormous leap of logic. I mean, evil doesn't alter your skeletal structure.
Exactly. If a total lack of spirituality makes you a giant, then Adolf Hitler should have been 15 feet tall.
Right.
But he was just an average-sized guy. Biology just doesn't work like a morality slider. You can't say that being evil makes you genetically huge.
No, you can't.
So the purely natural argument just breaks down the second you try to explain the actual physical outcome of these unions.
It really does.
Right.
And that biological breakdown, coupled with some fascinating linguistic clues we'll get into, it forces us to look elsewhere. I mean, ancient readers didn't look to human biology to explain the Nephilim. They looked to the cosmos.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting. This is the supernatural view.
The cosmic battle.
Yes. So this is the view generally held by liberal theologians, but also by ancient Jewish commentators and even the writers of the New Testament. The theory here is that the sons of God were fallen angels, demons,
Right.
who literally abandoned the spiritual realm, took on physical form, and mated with human women.
And I know it sounds like pure fantasy to modern ears, But the amount of ancient literature supporting this view is absolutely staggering. Let's just look at the New Testament receipts first.
Let's do it.
In the book of 1 Peter, chapter 3, it talks about Christ making a proclamation to the spirits in prison who were disobedient in the days of Noah. Then, in 2 Peter chapter 2, it says God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into pits of darkness reserved for judgment.
Wait, so that completely counters the natural view's argument that angels weren't punished.
Exactly. Peter's explicitly saying, yes, they were. God locked them in dark dungeons specifically for what they did during the time of Noah.
Oh, wow.
And it gets deeper. The Greek word Peter uses there for casting them into hell is tartaru, which literally means throwing them into Tartarus.
Tartarus, like from Greek mythology.
Yes, Tartarus is the deepest abyss of Hades, the dungeon of the Titans. So a biblical writer is deliberately using the language of Greek mythology to describe the punishment of these angels.
That is wild.
But the real smoking gun for the supernatural view comes from the book of Jude, verses 6 and 7.
Okay, yeah, Jude 6 talks about angels who abandon their proper domain being kept in eternal bonds. And then Jude 7 makes this totally devastating comparison. It says, just as Sodom and Gomorrah indulged in gross immorality and went after strange flesh.
Yes, strange flesh. Think about that. The men of Sodom famously lusted after the angels who visited Lot.
Right.
They wanted to cross the boundary of their own species. So Jude is arguing that the angels in Genesis 6 sinned in the exact same way. The men of Sodom wanted angel flesh. The angels in Genesis wanted human flesh. Both were a total perversion of the natural dimensional order that God established.
And it wasn't just the biblical writers who believed this, right? The essay lists so many extra biblical sources that treat this as historical fact.
Oh, tons of them.
You have the Book of 1 Enoch, which is this ancient Jewish apocalyptic text. It wasn't included in most Bibles, but it was incredibly influential in the ancient world. 1 Enoch literally names the demons.
It does.
It says 200 angels, led by a commander named Semjaza, descended on Mount Hermon and took human wives.
And 1 Enoch goes even further than that. It claims these fallen angels actually taught humanity forbidden knowledge. They basically jump-started the dark side of human civilization.
Like what?
Well, they taught humans metallurgy to make swords and shields. They taught them astrology, root cuttings for magic, and even cosmetics to enhance sexual seduction.
Wait, cosmetics, that's in there.
Yeah. They weaponized human progress. And you find this echoed everywhere. You have the Book of Jubilees. You have Josephus, the first-century Jewish historian, who explicitly compares the Genesis account to Greek mythology.
Right, like the Trojan War.
Exactly. According to ancient texts, Zeus orchestrated the Trojan War specifically to wipe out the demigods, the hybrid offspring of gods and mortals.
Because they were too powerful.
Right. They threatened the balance of the cosmos.
You see the same echo in the Babylonian myth of Etrahasis, too. In that epic, the gods send a flood because the noise of humanity is too loud, and demons are basically dispatched to snatch babies away. It's like every ancient culture in the Near East seems to possess this shared cultural memory of this bizarre interdimensional event.
It really is a universal ancient trope.
But what is the motive? If you are a spiritual being, why abandon the heavenly realm to come down and deal with mud and humans?
Well, the theological motive presented by Oberbrunner is chilling, honestly. It's about genetic warfare.
Genetic warfare.
Yeah, go back to Genesis chapter 3. After the fall of humanity, God prophesies to Satan that a human offspring, a Messiah, would eventually be born and crush his head. So the theory posits that Satan heard that prophecy and basically launched a biological attack.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. He orchestrated the intermarriage of demons and humans to genetically pollute the human race.
Because if he corrupts the human bloodline, a pure 100% human Messiah can never be born. The prophecy fails. Satan wins.
Precisely the logic.
Right.
And in that context, the devastating global flood of Noah wasn't just an act of divine wrath.
It was an act of grace.
Yes, extreme surgical grace. The entire human race was genetically corrupted except for Noah's family. The flood was a drastic measure to wipe out the hybrid Nephilim, save the pure human bloodline, and preserve the physical pathway for the Redeemer to eventually be born.
Wow. I mean, it is an incredible cinematic narrative. It makes perfect sense of the ancient worldview, but hold on. I'm stuck in the biology here.
Yeah, the biology is tough.
We keep running into the same wall. Angels are spirit beings. Jesus explicitly says in the book of Matthew that angels in heaven do not marry. Spirits do not have cellular structure. They don't have DNA.
Yep.
So how do you cross a ghost with human genetics? How can a spirit produce physical offspring, let alone giant offspring, with a human woman.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
That is the Achilles heel of the supernatural view. Modern scholars hit that DNA wall and simply cannot get past it. Plus, there is a massive timeline problem.
Oh, right. Numbers 13.
Exactly. If the global flood wiped out all the Nephilim and all the corrupted DNA, how on earth did the Nephilim show up again centuries later when the spies see them? Did the angels break out of Tartarus and do it all over again?
So if biology broke the natural view and biology breaks the supernatural view, where do we go?
Well, the author proposes a third alternative, a blended approach that attempts to basically bridge the gap between human reality and cosmic warfare.
Okay, what is it?
Oberberner calls it the possession theory. What if the sons of God in Genesis 6 were not fallen angels manifesting physical bodies out of thin air, but rather human men who were uniquely, entirely demon-possessed?
Oh, because if they're human men, they have human DNA. That immediately solves the biological plot hole.
Exactly.
But wait, how does possession account for the mighty men of renown aspect, the super strength?
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Mhm.
we have to look at how demonic possession operates mechanically in antiquity. It wasn't viewed as just a mood swing or a psychological break. It was understood as a violent, aggressive takeover of the human central nervous system.
Right.
Demons always seek physical embodiment. They hate being disembodied. Like in Luke 8, a legion of demons actually begs Jesus to let them enter a herd of pigs rather than be cast into the abyss. They desperately want access to physical hardware.
And when they get that hardware, it physically alters the host. I mean, think about the demon-possessed man in the region of the Gerasenes. He had superhuman physical strength, right? The text says he was constantly breaking iron chains and tearing shackles apart.
Yes. Or in Acts 19, there's that crazy story of the 7 Jewish exorcists, the sons of Siva. They try to cast out a demon, and the single demon-possessed man leaps on all 7 of them and completely overpowers them, beats them so badly they run away naked and bleeding.
So the demonic presence grants the human host terrifying, unnatural strength by, like, overriding human pain receptors and flooding the system with adrenaline. The human body literally becomes a weapon wielded by a spiritual entity.
Exactly.
Wait, so possession explains the incredible strength and the tyranny. It explains why they were attackers. But does it explain the genetics?
What do you mean?
Like, if a demon possesses an average 5'9" man, his DNA doesn't magically change to produce a 10-foot-tall child. We are back to the Hitler problem.
It's the right question to ask. The possession theory answers this in 2 ways. First, remember our etymology. Nephilim primarily means tyrant or attacker.
Right.
So the demonic possession created a class of supernaturally empowered warlords. They were mighty in their sheer capacity for violence and subjugation. The text's primary focus is on their renown and terror, not strictly their tape measure height.
But what about the ones who actually were huge, like the sons of Enoch?
For those specific subsets, proponents of this view argue for a demonic manipulation of human breeding over generations.
Selective breeding.
Yes, if demonic entities are possessing human rulers, they can dictate who those rulers mate with. They selectively breed humans for maximum physical dominance. They use human genetics, human sperm, and human eggs, but the process is entirely driven by demonic will.
Wow, that actually brings all the pieces together.
Yeah.
It solves the DNA problem because human genetics are used, maintaining the biological reality. It honors the ancient supernatural worldview held by the apostles, where unseen forces are actively warring against humanity. And it explains God's extreme judgment on humanity with the flood, because humans were still the physical participants, willingly giving themselves over to this evil.
And it elegantly solves the Numbers 13 problem, too.
The reappearance.
Exactly. The flood comes, and the physical bodies of those demon-possessed warlords drown. But the demons themselves, they are spirits. Water doesn't drown a spirit. They survive the flood.
Oh, man.
Centuries later, when the Israelites are finally about to enter the Promised Land, the demons just adapt. They find a new group of towering men, the sons of Anak, and possess them, specifically to terrify God's people and stop the advancement of Israel.
As the paper notes, demons adapt their ministry to the enlightenment of the age. They used a global breeding tactic in the days of Noah and a targeted intimidation tactic later in Canaan.
It's terrifying, really.
Oh.
But exploring these sources reveals our desperate human tendency to try and force ancient texts into neat, comfortable modern boxes.
We really do. We want binary answers. We want a spreadsheet.
Right, but navigating ancient literature requires profound intellectual humanity. The people who wrote and first read these texts, they didn't separate their world into the secular and the spiritual. They viewed the cosmos, the unseen realm, and human history as deeply, sometimes dangerously, intertwined.
Yeah. We read history as a list of dates. They read history as a spiritual battlefield. And when we engage with their texts, we have to be willing to step into their worldview, even when it completely challenges our grounded sensibilities.
And regardless of which specific camp you land in, whether you lean toward the natural view's focus on spiritual purity, the supernatural view's cosmic drama, or the possession view's blended reality, the ultimate takeaway from Oberbrunner's research is that human history is profoundly shaped by unseen forces.
Yeah.
And human compromise always carries a devastating cost.
So what does this all mean for us today? We started with a four-verse mystery, and we've traversed Hebrew etymology, Greek mythology, and interdimensional genetic warfare.
It's been quite a journey.
It's a reminder that the world is far wilder than our modern minds give it credit for. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We've explored the natural, the supernatural, and the terrifying space where the two might just overlap. But I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over. We mentioned that according to this blended theory, malevolent spiritual forces adapt their tactics to the enlightenment of the age. They don't repeat the exact same playbook if the world has moved on.
Right, they evolve.
So if that's true, if these forces simply shift how they operate to match the modern era, what would a Nephilim look like today? In a world driven not by broadswords and physical giants, but by technology, algorithms, viral influence, and invisible digital power structures, who or what are the mighty men of renown right now? Until next time, keep diving deep.